Hello student, good morning. I am Dr.Ajay Kumar Sinha, Professor of Chemistry. Today I am going to discuss toxic effect of metals on life. Toxic effect of metals on life. The mining industry, metallurgical industry, chemical industry, leather industry, sugar industry, distilleries and battery industries and thermal power plants are main source of toxic heavy metals. Toxic metals are added to aquatic system from the industrial processes, domestic sewage discharge, street dust, land runoff, and fossil fuel burning. Combination of heavy metals with salts or with organic compounds in particular is very toxic. As for example, the effluent of chemical and electronic plants contains mercury, Hg. This mercury combines with methane that is released by bacteria during respiration to form methyl mercury. Methyl mercury is very toxic. It can be then concentrated in feces to dangerous level. This is called biomagnification of mercury. In 1953, people in Japan suffered from numbness of body parts, vision and hearing problems, and abnormal mental behavior. This disease called Minamata disease occurred due to consumption of methyl mercury contaminated fish caught from Minamata Bay in Japan. This disease called Minamata disease occurred due to consumption of methyl mercury contaminated fish caught from Minamata Bay in Japan. The disease claimed 100 lives and permanently paralyzed over 700 persons. Trace of heavy metals such as mercury, cadmium, lead, arsenic, cobalt, manganese, ferrous, and chromium have been identified as detrimental to aquatic ecosystem and human health. Again, I want to tell you, trace of heavy metals such as mercury, cadmium, lead, arsenic, cobalt, manganese, ferrous, and chromium have been identified as detrimental to aquatic ecosystem and human health. Waste containing high concentration of toxic metal is either separately or in combination is extremely toxic to all organisms. Waste containing high concentration of toxic metals either separately or in combination is extremely toxic to all organisms. Heavy metals deposited in the kidney. Heavy metals get deposited in the kidney, liver, and bones. They act as systematic toxin and disrupt metabolic function of the body. Although most heavy metals are toxic, emphasis has been on a lead, lead, all over the world. Lead pollution is by far the most common form of heavy metal consumption. Now, I also want to discuss here agricultural discharge and fertilizer. Plant nutrient, pesticide, insecticide, herbicides, fertilizers, farm wastes, manure, slurry sediments, drainage from silage, plant and animal debris, soils erosion containing mostly the inorganic materials are reported to cause heavy pollution to water source. Again you listen. Plant nutrients, pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fertilizers, farm waste, manure slurry, manure slurry sediments, drainage from silage, plant and animal debris, soil erosion containing mostly the inorganic materials are reported to cause heavy pollution to water sources. In modern agriculture practice, NPK fertilizer, NPK fertilizer means nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK fertilizer containing nitrate and phosphates are added to the soil. This is again important point. In modern agriculture, agriculture practices, NPK nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium fertilizer containing nitrate and phosphates are added to the soil. When some of these are washed off through rainfall, irrigation, and drainage into the water bodies, then they severely disturb the aquatic ecosystem. The excessive use of plant nutrient lead to the disruption of nitrogen and phosphorus balance in water, affecting plant growth. Organic waste Organic waste increase the BOD of receiving water. BOD means biological oxygen demand of receiving water. Organic waste increases the biological oxygen demand of receiving water. Pesticides pollute the aquatic ecosystem because they are carried there by rainwater. Here they pass into the food chain, that is called phytoplankton, herbivore, carnivore, carnivore means these pesticide pollute the aquatic ecosystem because they are carried there by rainwater. Here they pass into the food chain. Food chain means uh, phytoplankton, herbivores, carnivore, man, and finally come to man. Means through phytoplankton, herbivore, carnivore, and finally it's come to man. In the aquatic ecosystem, the chlorinated hydrocarbon insecticides are known to depress the photosynthetic activity of phytoplankton. Now come to the further to the fertilizer. Indiscriminate and excessive use of fertilizers on land has also created an adverse ecological effect on aquatic ecosystem because some of them are washed off into rivers and lakes through irrigation, rain seepage, drainage, etc. Excessive use of nitrogen fertilizer to the soil often leads to accumulation of nitrate in water. When this contaminated water is consumed by cattle and man, nitrates are reduced to toxic nitrites by the intestinal bacteria. Nitrites enter blood Nitrites enter blood streams and react with hemoglobin, which has a stronger affinity for nitrites than for oxygen to form methagglobinемia. This is a disease. Means here in this disease there will be lack of oxygen. This methaglobinemia. Here this is actually disease, and here lack of oxygen takes place. Again, I am telling you, nitrites enter the blood. Nitrites enter blood stream and react with hemoglobin, which has a stronger affinity for nitrites than for oxygen to form methahemoglobin. Methahemoglobin. This cause a disease called methalobinemia, means lack of oxygen, in which damage is caused to the respiratory and vascular system. Due to lack of oxygen, lack of oxygen in blood, what will happen? This damage or this disease, means in blood lack of oxygen, that is what it will do. It damage the respiratory and vascular system, because of which suffocation and death may occur. Okay, this is the, you can say, effect of nitrogen fertilizer. Okay, this actually enter the body. This nitrogen fertilizer, it will go to the soil and often leads to accumulation of nitrate in water. When this contaminated water is consumed by cattle and man, nitrates are reduced to toxic nitrites by intestinal bacteria. Nitrites enter blood stream and react with hemoglobin, which has a stronger affinity for nitrites than for oxygen to form methemoglobin. This causes methalobinemia disease. Okay, means here there will be lack of oxygen. Then this methaglobinemia, in which damage is caused to the respiratory and vascular system, because of which suffocation and death may occur. Fertilizer used to increase the growth of crops also increase the algae growth, in surface water into which they are washed. Fertilizer used to increase the growth of crops also increase algae growth in surface water into which they are washed. This kind of exhalated algae and water plant growth is called eutrophication. This is called eutrophication. Most often increased amount of phosphorus and nitrogen are the cause of eutrophication. It leads to depletion of oxygen due to excessive algae growth, thereby increasing biological oxygen demand of water, means BOD of water. This depletion of oxygen due to excessive algae growth, thereby increasing BOD. It also leads to death of fish and other aquatic life. Now I am stopping only here. Thank you.